Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to C3 Films. I am Captain Cheryl, and this is my first mate.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm the first mate.
And today we be talking about Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. But it's gonna be for It Wasn't That Good because we both really hated it. So, on that note, welcome everybody.
Yes, it's good to have you guys here. Um, Cheryl loves the Pirates franchise, which is why this is happening right now. Um, Me, on the other hand, I like it, but I am clearly not worthy of emulating the Captain Jack Sparrow. There's only two people in the world that can do that outside of Johnny Depp, and that apparently is Cheryl and Penelope Cruz. So, with that being said, man, Cheryl, I don't even know what to say about this movie.
Oh, am I distracting you with my face?
I mean, you know what? It's fine though. It's fine. It's great. I need to know what was you're a big fan of these movies. So like what was your like feeling when you first watched it, if you can remember it, and then now rewatching it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think when I first watched it, I couldn't really put my finger on why I hated it so much. But now that I watched it again, I guess a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was it wasn't as good as what we had before, and it's like the
Yeah.
fourth movie, so you would think that it would have to like keep being a one up from the one before, right? So like in the first one, um, sorry, we're gonna spoil a little bit of the other movies this too, including the first one, second one, and third one, since this is the fourth one. So there's gonna be a little bit of spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Definitely, like I don't know why you haven't seen it. Like don't even talk to me. Um,
Well
but
then.
yes, dipping into the first and second movie, you can see how Barbosa being the first um, villain is one upped by Davy Jones, and then here
Yeah.
we have Blackbeard, who you would like expect to be worse than Davy Jones and more scary than Davy Jones, but he really isn't. He's got like I mean, Davy Jones commands the friggin' Kraken and the Kraken, right?
Hmm.
And like all Blackbeard could do is make ropes move and drive his boat without doing. I don't even know why he needs a crew.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he's like the Aquaman of the Pirates world. It's like I mean, I know people like Aquaman. I like Aquaman too, but let's be real. Like you take Aquaman away from water and land, you're like cutting his moveset in half. Just and you put Aquaman just on land. Yeah. So Davy Jones, excuse me, not Davy Jones, but Blackbeard is literally like, yo, you're on my ship, I'm dope. If I'm on your ship, I'm dope. But we're on land, away from the ship, I got no power. Like I'm not even like a wee bit scary. But I don't know. Wasn't that kind of similar with Davy Jones? Because Davy Jones' whole thing was he couldn't step on land. He had to always be in water.
Yeah, but he still had so many more resources. He could turn people into, he is a real serious threat. He could like make you he could force you to be part of his crew just by like having you owe him something, and you
Right.
have to like serve him and stuff like that. So, I mean, like he's just scary, man.
No, so it's weird because so I agree. Like Davy Jones is a good step up, which is why he carries the next two films in that trilogy. Um, and I remember like so I've forgotten that Ian McShane plays Blackbeard, and I love Ian McShane as an actor. And I wanted him to be scary, like that moment when he comes out in the reveal and some mutiny, and he's pointing his sword. But I remember thinking in that moment, I was like, "Can you do anything else besides the ropes?" And then even thinking about like how um, how Barbossa is talking in that movie about how the Black Pearl turned against him, and it was like, okay, so your power also is you can control other ships. The problem is we only hear about it, we never see him do that. So maybe it could have been scarier if like they're getting into a fight with the ship and the ship is ready to like fire the cannons, but then all of a sudden Blackbeard's able to turn all the cannons on the ship itself, and then they make the ship sink itself, and then his ship didn't have to do anything. Then I think that's a little scarier because we're pirates. Our lives are on the sea, but now you literally have no ship that can go against me. So then that can be a little scarier. But because all we see is just him using his powers on his own ship and only as it pertains to ropes, it's like, yeah, that's cool, but it doesn't feel anywhere near as interesting as skeletons in the moonlight that can't die, or Davy Jones, which I can only die if you stab my heart that I have locked in a chest somewhere. But at the same time, I literally have a Kraken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's basically the only villain who is mortal. Like he
Yeah.
just gets shot, and like his whole thing is he's trying to get the fountain of youth so that he can live longer. And
Mm.
like that's just so like we could just shoot him, right? He's just not scary because he's not immortal. Like there's no special way to kill him. Um,
Right. And I think what also hurts him is that we see his fear like immediately.
mm-hmm.
Because we already know before we even meet him that he's doing this because he's afraid he's going to die. So we get associated with the fact that he's afraid before we get associated with the fact that he can be scary. Whereas with Barbosa, we just see like the pearl in like shadows and like the wind changes and stuff like that when we first meet Barbosa. And we'll talk more about that and when we get to that movie. But the point is that even with Davy Jones, like their presence is felt before you see them, and the presence of them is what is used to build fear. But before we even see Blackbeard, we're told he's going to die, Barbossa's going to kill him, and he's trying to find a way to make it so that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It makes him seem weaker.
Yeah, and so this whole movie just kind of becomes like a regular movie in a fantastical world because there is a bit of magic, but like to be honest, I feel like the mermaids are scarier than it.
Yeah. So the thing is, this movie has some cool elements, like the idea of being able to control ships in a world where ships are like king. That can be scary. That is interesting. The mermaids, that is interesting, and it is scary when all of a sudden you start seeing them dragging people to their deaths. Um, they're basically like sirens of this world. So that's kind of cool, but so many of these interesting elements just fall flat on their face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing I think that really took away from Blackbeard is the music. I think that the fact that they recycled the music from the other movies and like they did give him his own new theme, but it was
Yeah.
so underwhelming and it sounded very very similar to the Cursed Crew in the first movie that you can't really like differentiate it that much.
I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice he had a theme. Now
It
that you mention it.
it's just very very slightly different. But if you actually go back and like listen to the soundtrack for Blackbeard, he does have a theme. It's just a very whatever theme. Like I can't even remember it. All I can remember about it is that it sounds similar to the the music in the first movie for the bad guys. So
Right.
but yeah, I mean, even the mermaid theme is recycled from Wits End, and and like just all of it is just recycled music, and well, not all of it, but like almost all of it. There is like a little bit of new stuff, but the new stuff is so not as strong as the first movie and the second movie. Like in the second/third movie, they definitely reuse some themes from the first movie, but they like Hans Zimmer created a lot more themes and motifs in the second and third one that are so strong. Like I'm sure you know, like you were humming it earlier and stuff like that, and like just hearing it in the fourth movie in for scenes that you have heard, like you've heard them before, but you're watching that music in other scenes in the fourth movie, and you're like, but that's from that other scene in that other movie when they were doing this, and this is nothing like that.
Right, you're like, this scene also isn't as good as those scenes. Like the music really made that scene in that other movie like seem more epic, but in this scene, it's just kind of like it almost feels like background noise.
Right? Like they used temp music and forgot to change it, but it's like from the other movie. It's just not designed for this movie, so it doesn't feel good. Like you still
Yeah,
enjoy the music, but then you also like I literally rolled my eyes when I heard some of the themes that they were using in different parts because I know where it's from. And like that's only because I'm a huge fan and I bought the soundtrack. I used to listen to the soundtrack every day, like for like just having it on, and so I'm very very familiar with the music and I know what scenes they're from, and just seeing it like I'm just like no. Why are you
yeah,
putting this here?
yeah. Like so, what else is interesting about the movie is that I'm finding this to be a repeating kind of motif or theme in these movies that we find aren't that good. And normally it's that they have interesting ideas or they start off interesting, and then as the movie continues it just gets progressively worse and starts to drop. Like when the movie started, maybe it's because I hadn't seen it in a while and maybe it's because I missed these characters, but I was kind of having fun. I was kind of having fun seeing Jack stumble his way to victory like we had so many other times before. And I was having fun. Like I literally started laughing when he's walking down the stairs, sees the guy beside him, and then knocks the guy's hat off and runs by him. I literally just started laughing at that. I was like, "You are so petty. You are so petty. You dumb man." But and so at that point, I was like, "Okay, I'm having fun right now." But then as the movie kept going, there are so many parts in the movie that feel like they're dragging, and a lot of the interest is lost, and you see them trying to like play off of things that you know from other movies, like similar quotes and similar ideas behind everyone backstabbing each other, and it doesn't feel new. And because it doesn't feel new, it feels like you guys are repeating your greatest hits, but this isn't even on the same level as your greatest hits, and the story that you're telling doesn't feel like an interesting story to be told after this last trilogy. So what it ends up really feeling like is like a filler episode in an anime. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like you had to tell a story in between the main plot to get us to the next big thing that's going to be interesting. And this is the story that you tell. Is it like an absolutely horrible story to tell? No. But is it interesting? Not particularly. Not when you have these other things you could be doing.
It had a lot of potential, like when they left off the previous movie, they hinted that there was going to be a thing for the Fountain of Youth, so they did kind of have this in mind. And
Right.
it just kind of fell flat because it just wasn't nearly as epic as, you know, the second and third one, which really went up to the first one. Like
Yes.
they really just took it to the next level. The first one was new, it was fun, it was like the birth of a series. And then the
Yeah.
second and third one, they really took it to the next level. Like, I'm gonna make this epic ass film. And then the fourth one was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna make another thing.
Yeah, and it's probably because the general formula kind of changed. That leads into a question I want to ask you as the captain of this crew in this ship. Like, do you think that Jack Sparrow works as a main character?
So I actually did write this down. I do feel like, even sorry, I'm gonna spoil the fifth one a little bit here. So plug your ears if you haven't seen it yet. But even in the fifth one, they have another character. So in the first one, obviously Will and Elizabeth, it was a trio of main characters, and it was the same for second and third. In the fifth one, they kind of do that too, because they have that other guy. I won't say who he is, but and I think the girl too, right? There was a girl too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was another trio of main characters, and you don't really realize how necessary that is until you watch the fourth one, and you're like, that's what I'm missing. I'm missing like someone for sorry, not Will, for Jack to play off of. And he's kind of alone in this one, and it's just kind of weird seeing him alone and not having like that person that can back him up. They kind of do, because they have Gibbs, and they kind of have Barbosa there a little bit, but like Gibbs, I love Gibbs, but he's not like Will. He's a pirate. He still looks out for himself. Jack needs a will. He needs someone with goodwill, like the missionary, which is why I think they had the missionary there. But it wasn't working for me because he wasn't in it enough, and we didn't feel attached to him. And to top it off, he has this relationship with a mermaid, which is so unnatural. Like, there was no chemistry. It all happened too fast. Like, they just fell in love. Build-up. Like, it was just kind of like love at first sight kind of thing, and it was weird.
They don't even have like a conversation. I feel like they don't even have a conversation before they make the proclamation that they love each other. Mm-hmm. I feel like the only thing is, like, he tries to capture her, finds out that then he like lets her go or takes the sword out of her tail and is kind of staring at her for a moment. Then she gets captured. Then for the rest of it, she's basically in a box. He sees that she's about to die, tries to make sure that she can get some air. She falls out of the box. She grows legs, which no one is surprised by the way. So, which makes me think that you guys knew that she would have legs. So why was she in a box with water? Because she clearly can survive without water. So now I'm just confused about like why like you guys carried a giant box, and if you didn't know that she could grow legs, why is no one reacting to the fact that she can grow legs and that she's fine outside of water? So now that I'm just confused, but whatever. Moving on, they literally don't have a moment where they can just kind of talk about even each other, or like, hey, mermaids are a bunch of murderers, right? Like, you guys murder a bunch of people. That does come later where they're like, oh, well, you're different. But that's after they've already like made this like decision that they are about to like kill her or whatever else. So anyway, point is, there's not enough time, and therefore it doesn't work, and it feels tacked on. And all you can think to yourself is, this isn't Will and Elizabeth. They're not as interesting, and he doesn't even get to interact with Jack that much. So we can't even see how they play off each other, and it falls apart. Jack needs someone opposite him to play off of. He needs like the straight man, the everyman to play off of, that he can also corrupt. And that's why he works so well, whether it was Will or whether it was Elizabeth, because they are both those people that come from this kind of prim and proper world, thrust into this pirate world where he is so like familiar with, and they learn from him, and he in a sense corrupts them, but they also kind of corrupt him with their goodness and like their heart. So there's a dynamic that there's interplay with all three of them, and that's why those first three movies work so well.
Mm-hmm. Even though there were three main characters.
Yes.
But it's just interesting how well that worked. Is just like, and this movie not having it, is, it's just very interesting how like they simplified it to having a main character, but it's not like solid, I guess. And Penelope Cruz is fine. I think her character is fine. But then we don't get enough of her, and what we do get of her is like, one, it's a little sexualized, which I didn't really like or appreciate. I felt they could have built more on their relationship. They talk, they dance a little bit with their history and what their relationship really is. but I feel like they should have given her more screen time. They should have really developed their relationship more on screen so that like she could replace the goodwill that we're missing, even though she's not even, she has her own intentions, I guess. But so did Will. It's just that like everyone having their own motivation for doing something, and then them clashing slash helping each other, and then ultimately having that showdown at the end. That's what we didn't really have.
Exactly, and I would make the argument that Jack, even if you do want him to be the main character, the people that are around him, I don't think he's as interesting if the people around him are just like him. If they're also pirates and scallywags and people that are willing to like backstab and betray without having this other side to them. That the thing that made Will and Elizabeth interesting in working with Jack is because they clearly were friends with Jack, and but then they would be drawn to do bad things, but they did those bad things to kind of save their good life. It's like their good life and this life with Jack were at odds, and when push came to shove, they used the bad life and bad experiences or bad things they've learned from Jack to support the good life that they wanted to keep safe. And that's what made that interesting to play alongside with. When everyone is just pirates and they're all working to just like keep their pirate life safe, there's no interesting like opposition between the two choices that are being made, because it's just like, well, you're pirates and you're of course you're going to betray each other because you're pirates. It's not like you're good people that that have a normal life and blah blah blah. So it doesn't work. And then the movie as a whole, everything else aside, unfortunately, it just gets a little bit boring as it keeps going. By the time you hit the halfway point in the movie, it's like you still got another an hour and 16 minutes.
And there was no moment for Jack to question his morality, which they had in the other one, where he had to give up something he wanted so that he could save someone, and he had that opportunity here, but it was like a no-brainer. He just already wanted to save the girl, and he did that. There was no moment for him to like question, like the whole reason why he was looking for the Fountain of Youth is so that he could use it himself, and when given the opportunity he chose to give it away. But it was not something where he had to like really think about it. He just did it.
Yeah, and also the thing is, at this point, I think it's the problem with when you do these kind of like tropes or these kind of like ideas in movies that came before. Now we're kind of expecting it. Like if you do a twist in a movie and then you do a twist in your second movie, then by the time you do a twist in your third movie, we're expecting it. Like we've seen the first Pirates movie. We know how it ends with like Will and the gold and the gun and the shot, and like how that is all like kind of played. We've seen the third movie and we know how that ends. Like these movies do this thing where it seems like a choice is being made that isn't going to affect like the villain, and then all of a sudden you see that the choice affects the villain. And so when we get to the point where he has the two chalices, we already know what's about to happen, and we know Jack. So when he says what it's in, we know that he's lying, and we're confirmed that what we know is true when Blackbeard grabs the chalice and drinks, because we know they're not about to kill Penelope Cruz. So when he turns around, he's like, "Oh, wait a second, I think I got it wrong." It's not a surprise, so it falls flat.
Very predictable.
So, yeah, and that's kind of what the movie is. It just kind of falls flat. It falls flat because of that.
Yeah,
because many things like that, decisions like that.
I think there's literally no character growth for any of the characters.
No,
they're all
not.
just the
and
same.
I don't think even any of these characters even come back outside of like Jack and Gibbs in Dead Man Tells No Tales. So they like kind of just got rid of this whole cast. Oh yeah, and Barbossa. But yeah, like anyone that was in the original trilogy of Pirates films, those are people that stay in throughout all 5 movies. But anyone introduced in this movie, I don't think comes back.
Yeah, True, because they're unnecessary. If you haven't seen the fifth one, though, you should definitely check it out. It's way better than the fourth one. It's not necessary, but it's more fun than the fourth one, and it's a nice way to, like, get some redemption.
Yes, I think it's a nice close to the ending at World's End.
They fixed it.
Yes.
They fixed their mistake that is the fourth movie.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, okay. Now that we've talked a little about this movie, I need to tell you guys a quick story. And this story is about how I got to watch this film. This film took me about 4 hours to finish.
Wow.
I had trouble getting through it because for whatever reason, whatever I chose to eat yesterday started to affect my stomach at the moment that I was watching the film.
Oh no.
So I had to stop watching every like 15 to 20 minutes, thus making this movie longer and longer for me to physically sit through. But at the end, I walked away with the realization that I was literally in pain watching this movie. And for that, I can at least appreciate the joke. So,
wow.
Yes, that was my experience watching On Stranger Tides. In pain, constantly and consistently for 4 hours in a 2 hour and 16-minute movie, including credits.
Jeez, so you hate this even more.
Yes, I hate this movie even more now. Because I will always remember this night when I will associate it with this film.
That's funny. I think it was your idea to do this movie too.
I mean, I wanted to have something to do with pirates, so, and I know you wanted to do pirates, so it's like, this is the only one I could think of this is the worst Pirates film. It's just...
It really is.
Hands down. I don't mean to, I don't want to get on anybody. If you do like this film, that's fine.
I do. What's wrong with you?
So, yeah. It is objectively, out of all 5 movies, this is the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. So, I have said everything I want to say about this movie. Is there anything else that you thought of that you would like to bring up?
I mean, I nitpicked at it a little bit. I guess I hit the main points. So I think I'm good. We don't need to talk about this anymore. Just don't even bother. You could just skip it. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it. Just skip it. Just go right to 5. Pretend there is no 4. That's what I do.
And she's the true pirate queen. So, if she says there's no 4, we listen to Cheryl. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. But did you guys see On Stranger Tides? What did you guys think about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it as much as we did? Whatever you thought, comment below and let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and my captain has been
Cheryl, and we will see you all next time. Bye.